Hey guys, Fabrizio Romano here, welcome back to the channel as always to keep you posted on transfers, but today in this video, as we are returning on the pitch after the international break, well, let's reveal 7 deals that maybe you didn't know could really happen this summer and didn't. Why? So, let's jump into it together. So guys, the market sometimes is surprising. Sometimes there are many stories we all know about players who had to go to one club and didn't. I could mention Gyökeres and Man United at the beginning of the window. I could mention Xavi Simons and Chelsea. I could mention Tottenham and Morgan Gibbs-White. I could mention Eberechi Eze. Okay, we all know those stories, but sometimes there are more stories. More details, more things to say. And so let's reveal 7 stories of this summer transfer window that had concrete chances to happen and then didn't happen. Why? Because the market is crazy. I always say the transfer window is a jungle, and so let's jump into these details. So let me start by an Italian player. You know I'm Italian, and an Italian player had a serious chance to move to the Premier League, and the player is Davide Frattesi, Inter midfielder, Italian national team midfielder, who was a serious target for Newcastle. He was the number 2 target on the list after Jacob Ramsey. So while there were negotiations for Jacob Ramsey with Aston Villa, was not an easy deal, but Newcastle also approached the camp of Davide Frattesi to understand the possibility to bring him to Italy. So to bring him to England from Italy. So Frattesi was a target for Newcastle. Then they decided to go for Jacob Ramsey. But what I can tell you also is that in the final days of the summer transfer window, Newcastle called again for Frattesi to ask again about the deal conditions for the final days of the window. Inter wanted to keep the player, but in case of big proposal, the situation could have been different. Why they called again in the final days? Because there was a game against Liverpool where Joelinton and Sandro Tonali got injured, so Newcastle wanted to understand the situation of Frattesi. Then, especially the injury of Tonali was nothing serious, and so they decided to avoid signing another midfielder, investing their big money on Nick Foltemade and Joane Vissa on deadline day, but Frattesi was a potential target for Newcastle United. Talking about another player, guys, Newcastle wanted Benjamin Sesko, but not only Newcastle. I can reveal to you that in the first week of June, so we're talking about the transfer window before the Club World Cup, Al-Hilal tried to sign the new Manchester United striker now, Benjamin Sesko, in a very strong and concrete way. Al-Hilal made official contact with the agents of Benjamin Sesko. Al-Hilal wanted to offer what was wanted by Red Bull Leipzig to sign Benjamin Sesko. So it was not only Newcastle and Man United that was a big story of the beginning of August, and then Man United signing Benjamin Sesko, but also Al-Hilal were part of the conversations at the beginning of June. They wanted Sesko as their new striker for the Club World Cup. Was not possible because there was the player who appreciated the approach, of course, respected the approach, but decided to stay in Europe and to stay at the highest level possible in the Premier League. So waiting for the right opportunity, and then decided to go at the beginning of August to Manchester United. But Al-Hilal were prepared to pay even more than what Manchester United paid for Benjamin Sesko, and were prepared to give him way bigger salary, but Sesko wanted to stay in Europe. Talking about Saudi, guys, I also wanted to reveal to you something about Luis Diaz. Because Luis Diaz was the number 1 target for Al-Nassr, the team of Cristiano Ronaldo, but this was the case before the change of management. Al-Nassr around March, April, probably you remember, in January they tried to sign a top winger. And at the end they signed a striker like John Duran, but they were looking for a winger. They tried for Mitoma, maybe you remember, they tried for Rafa Leao. Then they decided not to spend the money at the end of the window in January on a winger because they wanted to revisit the situation in the summer transfer window. And the target they had, March, April, beginning of May, was Luis Diaz from Liverpool. Al-Nassr were prepared to spend important money. Then, change of management, new people in charge, with Simão Coutinho, with Semedo, the new directors of Al-Nassr, and they decided to move on from that possibility to go for Luis Diaz, also because the budget was way different, reduced, and they invested on different players, João Felix, Inigo Martinez, covering different positions. But Luis Diaz was a serious target for Al-Nassr. My feeling is that, okay, Luis Diaz went to Bayern, but if the previous management of Al-Nassr was going to continue the club, probably end of May, beginning of June, they were already going all in and trying to get Luis Diaz, and maybe today Luis was not at Bayern. Bayern arrived later in the window, and they got the player they wanted, Luis Diaz. Revealing something also on other players, guys, I wanted to mention Bayern, as we said about Luis Diaz. They got Luis Diaz, but they tried for 2 more players, and they are also part of our background story now. One is Malik Fofana. Malik Fofana from Olympique Lyon is a player that Bayern blocked on the market for a few weeks. The player had a verbal agreement with Bayern on the contract, but Bayern always told in a very honest way to the player that they were only going to close the deal if they didn't get Luis Diaz, because the negotiation with Liverpool was not that easy at the end of June. Then it got completed in July, when it was easier to negotiate with Liverpool, but was not so easy at the beginning. They rejected several proposals, and so Malik Fofana was the plan B for Bayern. But then, again, they decided to proceed for Luis Diaz because Liverpool opened the doors. Malik Fofana was also a target for Liverpool in this summer transfer, for Everton, for this summer transfer window, but Everton didn't sign Malik Fofana because the player was not keen on not playing Champions League football. Another player that was considered as a target by Bayern for the winger position is Gabriel Martinelli. Gabriel Martinelli was one of the targets. Bayern also spoke to the agents of Gabriel Martinelli. It was a positive conversation, but Gabriel Martinelli is very happy at Arsenal, and Arsenal were showing no intention to accept anything close to 30-35 million euros for Gabriel Martinelli. For them, the player is worth way more, and this is why the negotiation never advanced. But Gabriel Martinelli was a serious target for Bayern at the beginning of the summer transfer window. Then again, it didn't evolve because of financial reasons, and also because Martinelli is very comfortable, feels very comfortable at Arsenal. Talking about Brazilian players, guys, let me mention Rodrygo. We know that Rodrygo has been a target for Manchester City. It's been one of the stories I've been telling you in the summer transfer window. City wanted to go for Rodrygo, but only in case Savinho was going to Tottenham. Then City decided to block Savinho-Tottenham deal, and so nothing happening for Rodrygo. But Rodrygo was also top of the list for Paris Saint-Germain. Paris Saint-Germain, only one case. If Bradley Barcola went to Premier League, they had an idea to go for Rodrigo. This is a plan they had in July. Then Barcola didn't show when he decided to leave. Then nothing materialized with the interest of Liverpool, because it was an option for Liverpool, but only if they didn't get Isak. And then they were very happy to go for Isak. So this is why Barcola didn't move and PSG didn't start a concrete negotiation for Rodrigo. But Rodrigo was one of the names being mentioned internally at Paris Saint-Germain for the winger position. So not only City, they tried in August, but also Paris Saint-Germain were interested in Rodrigo Goes. So another background story from the summer transfer window. But that was linked to Barcola. On Rodrigo also, guys, we had many reports on Liverpool, many reports on Arsenal during the summer, but nothing got really concrete in terms of bid, advanced negotiation, talks, just ideas, but nothing really concrete despite many reports we had in the summer. And then, guys, let me complete the secrets of this window also with Ethan Nwaneri, who decided to sign a new contract at Arsenal. But for Nwaneri, 2 clubs really tried to get him when there was the chance to try to enter the negotiations and try to see what happens, while Arsenal were still not agreeing on new contract with the player. One club was Chelsea. Chelsea were prepared to discuss Ethan Nwaneri in the conversations they had for Madueke, but then Arsenal stopped everything. And also, not only Chelsea, but also Borussia Dortmund were prepared to invest big money on Ethan Nwaneri, in terms of contract, in terms of signing fee, in terms of transfer fee to Arsenal. But Arsenal went very strong on new contract negotiations. The player decided to extend his contract at Arsenal and to show his love to Arsenal by signing a new deal. So this is why no Dortmund, no Chelsea, but they were very active behind the scenes. And so, guys, let me know your thoughts on all these transfer stories behind the scenes. Let me know your opinion, as always, here in the comments. Remember to like this video, turn on the notification bell, subscribe to the channel. See you soon. Ciao.